Hi friends, I am super excited to be able to share this video with you today. It is a painting called A Prayer of the Heart. I actually took the reference photos of my cousin for this painting myself. We went out into the desert and took a bunch of beautiful paintings. I've done quite a few paintings from that photo shoot. So this painting is particularly special because it got into the Bountiful Davis Art Center in Utah into their statewide competition. And so I'm really excited to be able to share it with you. And I hope that if you're in Utah, you're able to come and see the show. It opens this Friday and I'm just excited. So this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about what it takes to enter art competitions and what you should expect from art competitions if you're an artist. If you're not an artist, this is really great information to know anyway, because it can sometimes be a little complicated, and being able to support artists, especially when they're trying to do what they can to be able to get their artwork out there. If you're not an artist, help these artists. No, help other artists, help the people who are trying to make the world a little bit better by sharing their ideas and thoughts through the beautiful language of visual arts or even sculptural arts. There's a lot of different arts out there. But we wouldn't be around if we didn't have support from people like you. So I'm going to share a few tiny clips from our photo shoot and then go straight into talking about competitions and talking about this particular painting. It's always a little bit of a surprise when I get into a competition. I think part of it is because it's always such a disappointment when I don't get into a competition. I'm going to talk a little bit about the entire process of competitions and why it seems so much like you never know what is going to happen with a competition. Now, for you artists out there, I really want you to be able to remember that ultimately it doesn't really matter what a competition says about your artwork. Whether you get in or you don't get in, it really depends mostly upon how many things you enter. It's more of a percentage game than it is about a painting quality game. For so many years, I have always thought, okay, well, if I just improved the quality of my artwork, I would be able to get into more competitions, being able to win more competitions. And while improving the quality of your artwork is a great way to become a better artist, and it may increase the percentage of competitions that you are able to get into, increasing the quality of your artwork and taking lessons to win competitions really shouldn't be the end game. It should be that you are doing it because that is how you want to see your artwork going. Ultimately, competitions are very difficult. Not only are you trying to put your artwork out there and you're reaching beyond yourself, but also sharing something that is so important to you. We spend hours upon hours creating and thinking and training to be able to do a single painting as an artist. And to put that out there for other people to judge, how often does that happen in real life? You go to work and you're at a job, and yeah, your work might be judged by your superiors, but not really. It's not put out in front of a bunch of people and be like, yeah, that's good, or no, we're going to completely reject what this person is doing at work. And so it's kind of funny that as artists, a lot of our careers are based on someone else's opinion of the work that we do. There's not really a checklist with artwork. Be like, oh, check, they used the right colors, check, it looks like the person that they're trying to paint. There isn't really, and people always use the word subjective. It is very subjective on what people like. And so I'm always an advocate for finding people who are fans of the work that you create. And I am lucky enough that I do have the super fans, or whatever you want to call them. I do have people who love what I create, and it makes me excited to be able to share my work with those people. But it is always difficult to go and have someone else, especially another artist, having a professional artist come and judge your work and say, is it worthy or is it not worthy? Now, with these competitions, there are so many factors that have to be met before a piece can even make it into a show. Now, you think about how you go to lunch one day and you may love a certain food, but that day you really don't feel like it. That's just not something you really feel like it. And a lot of times it just has to do with your personal experience. Maybe that you've just been completely overwhelmed with that one type of food. You ate it for lunch for the past 5 days and you're like, oh, I'm done with it. Or you had a bad experience with one thing that you ate. And so I'm comparing an art competition to food and picking out your lunch. But at the same time, it really is kind of like that. If your artwork is preceded by 5, not so great artworks, maybe the juror will see yours and be like, yeah, wow, that looks great. Because ultimately, how they see your artwork is dependent on their surroundings, and it's dependent on their experiences, whether it's their experiences looking at your artwork in that moment or their experiences in the past. Now, you can always try to reduce the risks of your artwork being seen in a poor light, and part of that is making sure that you have really good lighting on your photos, that it looks as true to life as you can. If you can enter like a detail shot, so it shows off some of the texture and some of the techniques that you're using with the paint. Bonus, that's awesome. But ultimately, you have to remember that the juror just might not like what you're creating. Maybe they feel like a realistic portrait is not achieving a larger vision in the art world, or perhaps maybe your artwork may not strike a specific emotion with that judge. And so it depends so much on how they're perceiving what your artwork is, because a lot of these competitions now, they aren't even seeing artwork in real life. Most of these competitions, you send in a photo. I even had one where I just put in my website, and I thought it was a pretty big competition. I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm just sending them my website? That seems like I need to update my website first of all. But it really brought to the forefront that it's like, yes, we live in a digital age, and there's a huge difference between looking at your artwork on a computer screen or being projected up onto a wall, those are probably the ways that the juror is looking at your artwork.
we do have a little bit of a benefit over time, during this time, I guess, of being able to present an artwork that looks good on a screen. Most of us artists, and if you're not doing this, I really recommend that you do, is part of today's art world is sharing it online. And honestly, there's a lot of artists that make a living not sharing their artwork online. They kind of got ahead before this digital age really caught hold of the entire art world. But when we post our artwork on Instagram, I know this was one thing that I struggled with a ton, is when I first started putting my artwork on Instagram, it looked terrible. I'm like, it doesn't look that terrible in real life. Like, my artwork looks pretty good in real life. And part of it was the techniques I use or the photos I took. There were all of these kind of variables on what made my artwork look terrible digitally and actually look pretty good in real life. And so a part of it was I increased my skills, but you also have to increase a little bit of the contrast. Something as simple as either increasing the lights versus the darks contrast, or different texture contrast, or different edges contrast will help a piece look better digitally than it would if it's all the same. Sometimes I know a lot of the drawings and paintings I shared before on my Instagram were fairly simple, but not fairly simple in the way that I created them. And it has taken a lot more time and a lot more effort to be able to push my paintings towards something that will look just as good at a small scale on a phone as it does in real life, whether it's large or not. And this is a really hard thing for a lot of artists, but keep that in mind, that you do have an advantage. If you're sharing online, you do have an advantage in these competitions because you're learning how to make your artwork look good digitally versus just looking good while you're painting it. And so a lot of these rejections are really difficult to not take personally. And I take a lot of rejections from competitions personally. And oh man, and it's hard to kind of get back up on that horse. And it is hard to say, hey, I'm going to just keep entering. And so I just want to give a little bit of support and for those who have recently been rejected from a competition or from whatever the latest thing that you entered, if it was a grant or a residency. When you get rejected from that, it sucks. It really sucks. And sometimes when we are creating our entries for these types of things, it is ultimately us envisioning ourselves in that place. And so when we get the rejection, it's like, okay, well, that dream isn't happening. And it really kind of throws you for a loop. But at the same time, if you're able to just continually try to enter things, and honestly, it's awesome that we live in the internet age, because I've noticed that when I interact with like Instagram posts that have to do with competitions, I get so many advertisements for art competitions now. And I'm like, sweet, now I don't even have to search for something that would fit me. But ultimately, the only thing that I can control is how many things I try to participate in, how many times that I try to reach out with my artwork to other people. And I cannot control how many things I get accepted into. And And ultimately, I wouldn't have gotten into this statewide competition if I did not participate, if I did not even try. So ultimately, it comes down to the fact that celebrate because you tried, not because you won. Participation trophies for everyone. But go celebrate every time that you're able to go and participate and try to enter something, and then go home and do some more work. Thank you so much for watching this video of me painting. This was such a fun painting to do. And I don't want to forget, over the next few months, I am going to be opening up a community for artists and for people who love art. I'm hoping that it will be a loving, supporting community where we can support one another. I'd have more personal access to a lot of you guys, and I'd be able to answer a lot more questions. I tend to get a lot of questions, and it kind of builds up, and it's hard to answer them all. And so this would be a more personal place. I'm a very introverted person, and so having a more personal group of people that I can answer questions with, and I can talk to more on a one-to-one, and also have other people help with answering questions and participating in each other's lives. So if you are interested at all in being a part of a community like that, please send me a direct message on Instagram, on Twitter. Send me some sort of message. I would love to be able to talk to you about it. I would love to hear what kind of things that you would want in a community like that. And I'm hoping that it will be a place of support and community, and we'll be able to take our love of art to the next level together.